Katelyn, so great to see you. Thanks for being on the show and talking to us about Adams State and NCAA Division II.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I love the transition that you've done in your career because I was kind of like that. I was a teacher and a high school coach, and then I moved up to college, and then I moved up to AD, and it takes so many bumps in the road to kind of learn how to do everything. And I was a head coach. And I don't think anybody ever taught me how to be a head coach. Then I was an AD, and nobody taught me how to be an AD. You just kind of have to figure some things out.
Mhm.
When you went through your transition, you were an assistant coach, then you were the business manager for athletics, then your athletic director. How has that full circle journey kind of shaped the leader you are today?
Yeah, I know. I think you hit on a really good point. It's definitely all about figuring it out. And I think that it's something where an opportunity was given, it was there, and it's kind of how you just run with it and yeah, figure it out, get thrown in the fire. And so I think that's something that has really shaped me to where I am today. Coming in at a time that was as difficult of taking over during COVID ultimately, which, I already don't know what I'm doing. Now you've got this layer on top of it. So it's like an extra, wait, what am I doing?
Right.
But that has kind of actually helped me in a lot of ways to where now I'm like, what? There's nothing I can't handle, right? Like that's kind of the attitude that I've tried to have.
For
So you know
sure.
those challenges that come to you, and you're like, you know what? We were able to make it this far and make it through everything there. So try to attack everything I can head on, and that's kind of helped me develop to where I am and who I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how many things you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis as an AD
Hmm.
that nobody gets to see.
Hmm.
I remember taking over Maryville's AD job in like 2000 and I don't even remember, 2003,
Hmm.
and our 4-year NCAA study was due like in 3 months.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the president goes, "We need to get this done." And I go, "I don't even know what this is. I've never heard of it before." And I dove in. It was like 160 pages. I had to get everybody on campus involved and get
Yeah.
data and stats. What has been some of the big things that you've had to learn about athletics and NCAA athletics that maybe would surprise people about your job?
Yeah, I think it a lot of times in my job, I say you never know what you're going to get. You have a compliance, rule book, for example. You have everything that the NCAA says. I feel like, yes, that is there, but on so many other things. It's like when you have a job description and it's like other duties as assigned. That is so, I feel like literal in this role. I just think, being an AD, it's you have your hand in everything and that oversight of everything, right? And so for me, coming up on the business side of things, and that was really only for, I mean, a couple of years. So fortunately, I learned a lot there because I had a great AD that saw, and he allowed me to just kind of do, which helped me figure things out. But then coming into the AD role, you've got your compliance person coming to you and they're asking you questions, and you're kind of like, okay, yep, and we're just gonna have to figure this out. And so I do think that like only coming up in the one route was definitely something to where I've had challenges with some of the other areas and figuring it out. And then that could go into how you have to hire the right people in those roles and let those people do. I don't want to be a compliance officer. Like, no, thank you. So I'm going to
Right.
hire somebody that's going to be, good in that role. And so I think just thinking about, it's kind of funny because you'll get emails from, the NCAA at a conference and they're like, oh, this is due on this date, and you're like, okay, all right, we're gonna figure this out. So I can totally understand the reporting and then getting the people involved. And I think something that's really cool about this is you don't realize how many people have a play in keeping college athletics running. You had kind of mentioned going across campus, all the different people you're having to get involved. Like we cannot function without them, especially at such a small school like ours, right?
Right.
And so I think that's another big thing is when something where we see something or it feels like a challenge, it's that reassurance that we know we're not alone in this
Yeah.
because of that support and that small tight knit community we have here.
It's it's important to me. It's why I do the podcast. It's why I write every week, and why I do,
Mhm.
everything that I do in my side of this now is not only coaching parents and teenagers on that transition to college, but also I do a lot of executive coaching with coaches who
Mhm.
just, they're struggling, they're fighting through this or that. They're trying to figure out who they are and who they want to be just as much as these families and kids are. What role do you feel like you're responsible for in terms of just coaching your coaches and making sure they can be the best version of themselves for all your kids at Adams State?
Mhm. No, that's a really good question and something that I try to take a lot of pride in because I think, my job is to take care of all of our student athletes, right?
Right.
I can't sit there and be there for all 500 plus of them. I can be there as much as I can, but it's impossible to do that. So then I need to make sure I'm hiring the right people in those roles to then take care of those student athletes. Parents are trusting us with their kids. And so it's so important that we find the right people. And I think part of that is how I figured out kind of who I am as a leader, who I am as a person, and then what I want to instill in our coaches. And I think what we've really kind of laid our hat on here is that sort of hard work, blue collar work ethic, right? So we're going to get kids that can come in here, that they can work hard. They're going to have to grind. Adam State's a grind. We're a small, tight community, right? We're very rural. There's really not a lot to do around here. Nothing to do on the weekend. So if you come here, you're going to be focused in and do your sport kind of becomes your job. And
Right.
so I think like when I bring in coaches, like one, that's kind of what I look for in our coaches. We may not always have, coaches with all the experience or all, head coaching experience here, here, and here. But I like to see those young, hungry coaches because I feel like I see that within our athletes. So young, hungry athletes that just want to get better. And so when it comes to, we work hard around here. I mean, that's something that we'll always hang our hat on. It's always like that, having respect for each other and then just having a great working environment. I'll tell you, we have a great culture here. I mean, our offices they're loud, which I think is a good thing because I've been in other departments and sometimes you're like, why is it so quiet? Like I literally
Right.
work in athletics because I've been in another office and it's way too quiet. But it's part of that when you're in this small place. I mean, I can literally yell down the hallway and get someone's attention or walk down and see a coach. And so I think it's also like, for me, I want to be available for my coaches. I'm going to be seen. I'm going to be at events. I'm going to be, around. I consider myself like I work in athletics also, so I don't have to sit behind a desk all day. And I think that's something that's important for coaches because then that builds that relationship to where we can talk to each other. You've got something, come to me. Let's figure it out. So I'm very much really instilled that if coach, you want to come to me with something, we're going to talk about solutions. We're not here to just complain. We're going to move forward. We're going to find solutions and we're all going to make this place better together.
Well, it's a great transition because you guys have been top 20 in the Learfield Directors Cup. I'm consistently year in and year out.
Mhm.
And a big part for me when I go speak at a high school or something like that, I tell everybody, I want you to remove the word success from your vocabulary and I want you to replace it with significance because
Mhm.
success is mere chance. I mean, it can be luck, it can be you had a good day. For me, significance is learning how to do that year in and year out and have
Mhm.
that sustained success. What does that look like for you at the Division II level? How do you do that? How do you make sure there's that consistency? Maybe you're not winning the championship every year. Maybe you're not every year in the top 3 or 4 in the conference, but how do you get your kids and your coaches and all the admin on the same page where you're like, we got to always be here. This is where we're trying to get to every year.
Mhm. No, I've definitely been striving to each year kind of make us better. And I think that success is, I appreciate the way you kind of frame that because there's so many different layers to it.
Yeah.
And I think part of that starts with that recruiting process, right? Like we're going to get the kids here that know that they're going to grind, work hard, and they're going to kind of give it their all because that's something that when you're not fully funded, we don't have all the resources. But I think one thing we focus on what we can control, and what we can control is how we work. What are we're not giving up. Like those are the things that we try to hang our hat on and focus on. And so as we get the right one, you got to get the right coaches here that understand that and feel that. Also knowing like, hey, I'm not going to focus on what I don't have. I'm going to focus on what I do have. And I'm going to do the best that I can with what I do have. And then that's when we can grow. We've seen that in some of our programs, just as they continue to elevate, people get behind that. And next thing you know, we're able to give them more. But my big thing is when a coach comes in, like, hey, you've got to show me you can do with what you got to get started. I think another thing that we're super fortunate here is we have, our head coach, Damon Martin, our cross country director of cross country track and field. We have over, I think it's like 68 national titles within the sport of cross country track and field. Damon has over I think he had 40. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think he has around 40 right now. And so having that is something that these coaches can come in and really look up to and strive for. His office is incredible. It's literally lined with trophies. And so what we also use that as is, hey, when we're bringing coaches here, on visits, right? We're looking for a new head coach. Like, hey, this is our standard, but this didn't happen overnight. Because I think something that's also super important is that it can get really easy to think that the grass is greener somewhere else, or I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this and then go. No, this didn't happen overnight. This was years in the making. So we also try to find people that are going to be committed, that they're bought in and be like, hey, this is our standard and this is what we're striving for. And then that trickles down to the kids. We bring kids on recruiting visits. Literally any sport will stop by that office and be like, just take a look in there. Like, this is what Adams State is.
That's right.
And so having that visual, I think, has really helped too, to understand that, like, this is a culture of, really a culture of excellence, right? We're always chasing excellence here. And that excellence can also come in many forms. One thing too, it's also in the classroom. We hit a 3.0 department-wide GPA last spring, which is one of the highlights of like my entire career. That's a lot of work to get to that point. The best thing is you see them graduating, and you see them walk across that stage. And I think still one of the most rewarding things is a kid that's been here for all 5 years, however, long that they've been here, if they came through COVID, and it's like, wow, you all stayed and you're going to be better because of that. So I think, yeah, there's definitely that. We're always chasing excellence in everything that we do.
You've used the phrase "the right coaches," getting the right coaches here a couple of times, and I know you're in the middle of a search right now. So I'm gonna, since this is all fresh in your brain, I want to talk a little bit about that process, because the last time I applied for a head coaching job and got the job, I think there was 300 applicants.
Mm.
Wow. And that was for basketball, basketball and football, volleyball. Sometimes you just get an immense baseball, softball, you get an immense amount of applicants. People just come out of the woodworks to apply for jobs. Talk a little bit about how that journey begins for you once that job is posted.
Mm-hmm.
And because just in what we talked about before we recorded, it's obvious you have the right mindset. This can't be 8 weeks long. This can't take 2.5 months to get a coach in. We need somebody here recruiting, building relationships yesterday, right?
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that, because it's maddening. If I told the average person, here's 20 applicants, you've got to find the best person we're going to hire.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about a head job at a Division II level, scholarships, it's good money, great opportunity. You've got all these people that are coming at you, and everybody's mom and brother and sister are calling you to say, hey, you should hire this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does that beginning, middle, and end look like for you? And how do you deal with all that from a mental perspective?
Yeah, no, I think I feel like in athletics, we always have this like sense of urgency, right? And I think sometimes that's probably my biggest hang up, is sometimes other areas of campus don't have that same sense of urgency. So it's usually, I am very much like, if I know a coach is leaving, boom, I'm on it, because I got to get that posted right away. From the state of Colorado, we do have to have the job posted for 2 weeks. So I know I've got at least that 2-week waiting period, but we're doing all the work in the back end. We're creating timelines. We're reviewing candidates. We're, kind of starting to sort through them, so that when that 2-week date hits, we're reviewing on that day to then be able to do those first round interviews. And I think, for me, it's kind of crazy, because I think my first summer here, I think we had about 7 searches, because we were just like, it was, again, that out of COVID, we weren't able to hire. So now all of a sudden I've got to hire all these people. That was, my first experience, for example, hiring a football coach. And we actually ended up doing internal, so it wasn't as intensive, but oh my goodness, hire a football coach is probably one of the hardest things that I've done.
I completely agree. It was the hardest search I've ever done when I had to hire a football coach. Yeah.
Just the amount of phone calls of people, and I'm over here just like, oh my God, like it's a lot. And I think what I think is so it's really easy to like doubt yourself, right? It's really easy just to be like, oh my gosh, is this the right person? Is this the right person? So it really took me some time to then feel like what I'm looking for and what I know is going to be the right fit. Because I think I'm over here like, I don't know anything about football. I'm like, I can know some basics, but I'm not going to know that. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, it's really looking at what kind of experience does someone have. We do have, usually your minimum qualifications, and that's kind of all laid out already. But I'm not always like, I could have two resumes and one could have a lot more experience, maybe on paper is way more qualified. But if we get to that first interview, we're bringing on campus and I'm sitting in a room talking to them, I feel like that's when I really try to sort through them. I think because it can be so different from step by step by step. But what I really found is that I find people, or I try to find people that one have been at smaller schools because that does help a little bit, right? Like as many times, sometimes as you have those that have maybe been at bigger schools and they're like, oh, I know what it's like to work at a small school. It's like, well, if you haven't done it, it can be a little challenging.
Right.
Sometimes we can work through it because we've had that too, and it's been great. But really trying to find those people that have proven and shown that they've grinded and they found ways with what they have. I say all the time that we have to get creative here. And that's something that I really look for in people. Can you get creative? Can you kind of think outside of the box? One big question we ask is, how are you going to recruit kids and how are you going to recruit them here? What are you going to show that we can offer? So I really try to have that conversation with them. And I think that it's truly those fit is just such an important thing for me. And I wish I had like a very clear cut of like how I do it. But for me, it's very, when we bring finalists on campus and I sit down with them, I feel like it's a lot of times I gut check too, right? Of like, I know that this person um, may not be the most qualified, but they're a better fit for our department. And the ones that have been better fits are the ones that have actually lasted longer than the ones that might have been more qualified. So
Right.
really for me, it's and again, our department's so small, right? So it's like we're doing the meetings and meeting with all the coaches and staff at one time, and next thing you know, they're like little puppies running around the office, like all asking, "What'd you think? What'd you think?" But because it's like everybody also cares. Everybody wants to bring someone in that's going to fit what we already have. We don't have any coaches that are just in and out all day. I mean, we've got coaches that have all the kids are like besties and they're all running wild. So we're like, hey, you got a kid? This is great. This is a great fit for you. We do a lot of things as a staff, and it's like, hey, who's going to be a good golfer with us, or who's going to, things like that we think about. So it really, truly, for me, fit will outweigh what's on paper, and sometimes fit will outweigh qualifications. Yes, sometimes for me is what I think about there.
Absolutely. You've got to have the right person on that bus with you, and that has to be the person you want to work with every day, that can handle conflict with you because you're going to have that, can handle the chaos because
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have that.
Yep.
Who's that person you want in that foxhole with you,
Yeah.
and who's
Exactly.
going to get along with your staff and the other coaches? There's so many levels to that. I want to go backwards though. I'm gonna pick on you a little, just pick on your brain a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You're reading the cover letter. Are there a couple things that kind of jump out at you at a cover letter and you're like, okay, I'm excited to read this resume now? And are there things that are like, okay, AI did this, or this person
Mm-hmm.
put two sentences together? Are there good and bad when you're reading a cover letter that kind of pop in your head right away?
Yeah, authenticity is one of them, is something that I look for. I'm also very big on, if your cover letter doesn't match your resume, that's usually a big red flag for me. Or if there's something where I'm very big on like dates. So if there's a date that's like an end date, but it's not like, like if they're in their most previous role and it's not present, it's to an actual end date. So then I'm over here like, you better be addressing that in your cover letter because I want to know. Because my thing is, it's going to be asked more,
That's
especially
right.
in this world, right, of college athletics. And so I think really just that authenticity. I like to see people that have taken programs. I like to try to feel out how they respond and like interact with their student athletes as well. Like kind of like that. Are you going to be there for your student athletes? You're going to be hard on them, but you're going to love them too. Do they show that kind of work ethic and that grind in the cover letter? And again, that just comes out to being very real. I mean, we've seen I think all sorts of things in cover letters. We've seen the wrong school listed, where it's just like a template one and then it's moved
Yeah.
over. I also like to see a little bit about why you want to be at Adams State because I think that's super important. What attracts you about this role, and what have you done makes you feel like you'd be a good fit here. So those are kind of some of those points I think I look at initially.
All right, let's talk about the resume now.
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that you just know that you've got to have? You've talked about small school history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always wanted to have three head coaches experience, and then I wanted some assistants. I wanted to have that
Mm-hmm.
mix, that we were interviewing those people that were ready for that next jump, but I also wanted us to be able to compare those to those coaches that have been doing this for a while. Where are you at with that, and what you're looking for before you
Mm-hmm.
move them ahead to maybe that first Zoom or phone interview?
Kind of exactly what you just said. We usually look for some variety. So looking at some of those that have been in the head coaching chair, because I think that also brings a lot of value. Someone that's done it, they've proven that they can do it. But then I also like to look at some of those young, hungry assistant coaches. I think too, there's a big difference for me because I was an assistant coach. You can kind of tell the difference between the different layers of assistant coaches. So sometimes those assistant coaches at bigger schools, you're really not doing a lot of the X's and O's, or you're maybe just barely touching it unless you're up at this level of it.
Yeah.
So it's assistant coaches definitely don't scare me. I love seeing hungry assistant coaches, but there is that layer of like what level of assistant coach, because I know assistant coaches can grind, like because I've done it. But I also know that there's different layers to where, well, if you were an assistant coach and only doing this, this could be a big step for you, right?
Right.
And so I was trying to see those gradual steps, but I love having it. In a perfect world, it's really nice to have kind of the different variety that we're able to bring, because then when we bring them to campus, it makes it a lot. We kind of see it all, which I really appreciate.
Every school is a little bit different how they go about that next step. Now, okay, now we're going to interview.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of schools, the HR will tell you whatever questions you're asking this candidate, you have to ask the same ones to the
Yep.
next candidate. Okay, there's just the politics of it, and making
Mm-hmm.
sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. When you see there's some things in a resume, you're like, gosh, I really like this person. This is the kind of energy I want. I love the authenticity of the cover letter. It seems like they put some real thought into wanting to be here and what
Mm-hmm.
this place means to us. But gosh, I don't know if I don't see that they have a real history of running an offense, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
see that they've been kind of the closer with recruiting. Are there things that you want to get into in that first phone call with them to kind of answer those questions, no matter what your standard list is?
Yeah, so definitely the way we kind of do it is we have our first round, Zoom interviews. I'm very fortunate to have a staff that's been in place, that they've got that down, and I put people in there that I trust. I'm like, you all tell me who you feel like, you want to bring to that next step. And then after that, I'll kind of do a little bit more of a dive into their, a little bit closer into the resume, cover letter, and then talk to my committee to then get some feedback where they're like, hey, someone's really good in this area, but we do have some questions about this. So I take their feedback first, and then I also kind of do my own feedback, specifically with football, just because that was kind of we did that search over a little over a year ago. Again, I knew nothing about football. I was like, yeah, football coach, yeah, it's all the same, right? Yeah, no, very different. So then I'm getting people asking me, do you want like a defensive coach or an offensive coach? And I'm like, so
Yeah,
that was actually something that was really cool, because I was able to we actually had a variety of both offensive and defensive sides of the ball. So it was really cool to be able to kind of dive into that a little
yeah,
bit. But I'll be completely honest, like I hate interviews. I absolutely hate them. I know we have to do them, which is why I've kind of moved away. We do our first round Zoom interviews, and those are all obviously same questions, all of that. But when I bring them to campus, we don't do any sort of formal interviews. What we do is we set their schedule to very much like, I want you to meet with all these different people. You're going to meet with all of our coaches and staff. I want you to meet one-on-one with our strength staff, our athletic trainers, because I want you to know who you're going to be working with. Do you all see, do we have similar philosophies? Do we feel like, because if
yeah,
you have a coach come in and they're like, no, I want to do all my own, training and strength, that's usually like, well, that's sometimes that can be a little bit of a turn off.
right.
I'll usually meet with them. And then what we'll do is we'll have them also meet with the team. So anytime it is a head coach, we will always include the student athletes, because
Good.
I think that their voices are very important. We also make it clear that it's like, hey, just because if you all really want this person, it doesn't always mean that you're going to get it right. But we do provide feedback for them, and I actually go in there after they've met with all for this next search. It'll be 3 of them, so I'll go in there, find a separate time to meet with them and get their feedback. I will be. It's actually kind of cool to see that a lot of times it actually aligns with where I'm at and like our committee's at. But I do take that feedback very seriously, because I do understand that like, like so far we've been aligned, but there could be that time when it doesn't align. Next thing you know, they don't like it and that. But I also think another layer of that is, hey, we all really like this person. You all really like this person. If they don't work out, there's really, no one else we can blame except ourselves, right?
That's right.
Everybody's at fault on this one. And so I include them. And then we do a lot of, instead of sitting down formally with the search committee, you're going to go to lunch with them and you all are just going to have good, engaging conversations. And I think that that's something that we really found works for us because, again, it's back to what I was saying earlier. It's all about finding the right fit. And it's really just, we used to joke that one of my former compliance individuals, he would sit down with them and he was like our vibe check guy. So we would be like, let's see what he thinks because he's usually got the best vibe reader on all of them and what's
kind of having a vibe check guy in it.
Yeah, it's really helpful, I'll tell you. But it's kind of cool though to see like the way we've gone through it, and usually people do become aligned. And then after that, obviously, especially if you come down to where you kind of can't decide between a couple, we'll obviously reference checks and really take the time to do it because it's a big decision. It really is, and it's something that you want to, be as right as you can be on it.
Yes, it is. It's so trying, and I completely understand where you're coming from the interview perspective because it is. It's just it's monotonous, and it's almost like you're rooting for this person to blow your doors off. Just come in and inspire us. Just come in and motivate us, please. That's what we want. That's what the kids want.
Yep.
And oftentimes you get somebody that doesn't understand. We are hiring you to be a coach. Coach us here. Give us your coach attitude.
Yeah.
And you don't always get that. I'm struggling because I'm interviewing for 3 jobs right now. I'm running the interview for 3 jobs right now, or I'm hiring 3 college coaches. And I'm struggling with how bad the writing is.
Yeah, we've seen that too.
Where you're not telling me in the cover letter why you're even applying for this job. Why, like you said, it's so important. Why here? What are you going to do here? And I've been writing a ton about it in my blog about, this is what I want to see in a cover letter. And this is what I want to see in your resume. Don't tell me how many games you won. I want to see the specifics. What is it about coaching that you've learned along the way that makes you prepared for this job? Talk a little bit about when you do see that resume, are there things that surprise you sometimes in a good way where you're like, that I haven't seen a lot of that? Is there any of those resumes you're looking at right now and going, I like that? Because not every coach will put, this is my team GPA for the last 4 years, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not every coach will say, I was involved with this. I wasn't just the soccer coach. I was also doing this on campus. Are those things important to you?
I would say, yeah. I mean, a lot of times coaches, yes, you're right, defer to like wins and losses, and that is good to see. We do like to see GPA. I think it is good to see that, as well as retention, just to try to get a little bit of an idea. And another big one here it's actually one of the questions that we ask is their experience fundraising and running camps, because that's kind of a staple for a head coaching job here. And so I don't want to see, like there's a lot of ways you can fundraise, right? But like, I want to see a little bit more than like we sold t-shirts, right? Like I want to see a little bit more back to that creativity is something that we're really looking for, because we do understand we've got, limited resources, and can you show to me that you can find a way to make up some of those gaps? Or you're telling me you want to go into this tournament. It's like, okay, well, where's the money for it? How are you going to raise this? Or it better already be in the bank before we spend it. So I think that's something too that coaches are, especially at this level, and I could say arguably at all levels, they're not just coaches. They are sometimes fill parental roles. They are counselors. They are like the people that get called in the middle of the night. They, sometimes like they're, they feel like the judge, the jury, and they just feel like everything. And so we do try to also see that and capture that as well, knowing that we need someone they're going to see these students as more than just athletes, because it's crazy how many times our coaches be like, well, wanted to be a head coach, I thought I would just be able to coach. Yep, nope, joke's on you, because there's a lot more to it.
That's right. There is. It's such a big job. You have to be the CEO of a program.
Hmm.
You have to have a business mind.
Yeah.
If you don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, you're going to struggle
Yep.
as a head coach at any level.
Hmm.
Talk a little bit about pipelining. I preach this when I'm doing some coaching with ADs, especially young ADs.
Hmm.
I'll talk about, if you don't have a folder in your desk
Hmm.
for every sport, for every coach that you run across, you see an assistant that comes to campus that's you're playing against, and they're dynamic. If you're not keeping a list of coaches that, if your coach leaves, you have some ideas,
Hmm.
you're always starting from zero.
Hmm.
Where are you at with that pipelining philosophy in terms of, I'm not just going to wait to see who applies. I'm gonna encourage some people to apply. Are you in that world?
It's kind of funny because I always tell I have an extremely like guilty conscience. So I feel like if I were to I almost feel guilty if I were to like reach out to somebody and be like, "Hey," like so because I feel like I'm such a people person, I have great relationships, especially with the
Right,
ADs in our conference, to where that. So there has been sometimes be like, "Hey, definitely want to reach out to this person. Is that okay?"
right,
So
right,
I
right,
do have a little bit of that. Our coaches are also very well connected. So, for example, it's like our basketball coaches were like, "Hey, I know a couple volleyball coaches at this school I was at." So I feel like the coaches also do a lot of that work for me, which I
right.
do appreciate.
Yes.
Another big thing that we do look at, kind of my first, I would say, line of defense or layer is alumni. Do we have any alums that are in
Right,
that world that want to come back? Because I will say we have found a lot of success in bringing back a lot of our alums to campus. People that have gone out. I mean, our football coach is a great example. Went out, had coached at a couple different D2 schools, had been a DC, was doing so many good things. He checked so many boxes, right? He's ready for the next step, ready for the head job. He's got the love for Adams State. And so, obviously, not like I think with certain searches, though, like I feel like there's some of our areas where not a lot of coaches came out of that sport, and that's okay too. But that is something that we always try to keep kind of in touch with too, is bringing back those alums, especially those alums that were part of really good and successful programs,
yeah.
because that's what they've given their blood, sweat, and tears here, and they've worked through it, and they know what it's like. So we've seen a lot of that too.
I'm gonna We'll say August 12th. I want to put you in front of all your athletes. I'm sure you do something before every
Mhm.
season with your athletes, right? You get
Mhm.
everybody in a room or a gym and
Yeah.
talk to all your football, soccer, and
Yep.
volleyball players. What are some of those things, and kind of come at it from the perspective of the parents that are listening, the high school coaches that are listening to this,
Mhm.
on the mindset of those kids that are transitioning to college, transitioning to that Division II high level of athletics? What are some of those things you're talking to your student body about that you expect from them for their upcoming season?
Mhm. Yeah, my coaches kind of joke with me because they pretty much know my spiel because it's
Yeah,
really not long when I do talk to the students, because what I really focus on is letting them know that I'm here for them. My door's always open. You know where to find me. Reach out to me if you need anything at all. So I think like that's a big one that I hit on, is knowing that I'm there for them. Another big thing I hit on is don't do stupid things, because we will find out about it. They always think they're sneaky. They're not.
yeah,
Usually things always come back to us, especially in a small campus, small community. And we talk about that. We talk about like there's people in the community that watch you. They know who you are. A lot of you wear Adams State out of your athletic stuff all the time. So just remembering that, and really to be good stewards of the community and be involved in the community, is a lot of things that we hit on. So it's a lot of that from a kind of that care, like, hey, we're here for you. We care about you. We want to see you all be successful, and kind of what we're here for. And then we do have everybody in our department introduce themselves, all of our support staff, because I think that's important that they know who people are.
yeah,
I do think that it's gotten a lot better, but I think it's interesting. My trajectory as an AD was I was almost too accessible and available to start, because I think sometimes students would come talk to you, and it was good to hear from them, but sometimes you're like, okay, we've got to work on some other things. We got to be a little bit tougher with that, because like they're saying things about coaches, and sometimes you're like, okay, just trying to take that deep breath and you're like, well, what's the problem? Just because a lot of times it comes back to playing time too. And so I've also made it very clear to like, I do not discuss playing time. That is not something that I will ever be a part of because that's not my job. And so a
Right.
lot of times when you're peeling back these layers, like if we've got real issues, I want to know about them. But if you're upset because you're not playing, I unfortunately I really can't help you. And that's kind of helped me get to this better point to where it doesn't feel like every kid's coming to you, because they're not playing, but also like not scared to bring the real issues to my attention.
I was an AD, college AD at 27. You want to talk about unprepared. And I think maybe the youngest coach I had might have been in their late 30s. Everybody else was probably 39 to 50. So I just
Mm-hmm.
remember how challenging that was to just earn their trust.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about everything you just talked about with kids, which is just fantastic, it's the right approach, it's the right idea, and you're talking about the right challenges that you've had to face to learn in that. What are some of the things you're doing with your coaches to get them to understand not only your expectations, but that they can trust you, that
Mm-hmm.
doing this collaboratively, you got to be the boss, you got to make the hard decisions, but you're doing it with them. Where
Mm-hmm.
does is that in individual meetings? Is that in staff meetings? Where do you build that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that too, and I understand. I think I was 28, so
Yeah,
yeah, you're over here like I have no idea what I'm doing. It. I feel like a lot of it happened kind of fluidly. I luckily I was in this department before, so I already had kind of an idea about how it ran, right? So I
right.
feel like the operational side of it, I could handle that. Just like I said, I hate interviews. I also hate meetings. Absolutely hate them. So I am very much. I'm gonna pop into your office. You're gonna pop by mine. I mean, text me, call me, do whatever. So I think one, I make myself accessible to them like literally 24/7.
Right.
When we do bring no coaches in, it's like I should know about something. I shouldn't hear about it from someone else. Just like the student should let the coach know because the coach shouldn't know about from someone else. And as it kind of goes up the ladder there. And so I really just think it's that interaction with coaches and just being human. Like I don't feel like I'm above anyone, right? Like, yes, I am the boss, I'm running everything, but I truly don't feel like I come in like that. I don't know if that makes sense. They're
Makes
just
complete sense. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just things like that to where it's like we're all in this together because we all have the same common goal. And I think by me not coming in kind of like that top down mentality has really helped like bring everybody up to where it's like, all right, well, hey, let's see what Katelyn thinks. They'll run it by me. Okay, great, boom, good. And it's kind of funny, like kind of like with the student athletes, sometimes the coaches would bring stuff to me, and at first it's like you're trying to take everything in, but it's like that's not sustainable. And so part of me becoming a better leader, I would say a lot of it is going from being a manager to a leader, right? Because I'm so used to managing. I'm so used to like the day to day, boom, 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 because I came up on the operation side. But becoming that leader is more of like, I let my coaches do and I let my staff do. And then also being a little bit clear on what needs to come to me and what does not. And I think that's also helped a lot because it was like when you try to take everything in, it like I said, it's just not sustainable and it'll burn you out.
Yeah.
And so we really got a pretty good, I think, system where again, it's if we need to call a meeting, we will, right? And I'll do preseason, end of season, like I'll do all of those like more sit down check ins, mostly just to make sure we have the time to talk, because I think that's also important. Because things can get so busy and crazy. So we will set aside time in that way. But in terms of just like occurring standing meetings with coaches, I don't have that. Our support staff, we meet every week, obviously, because we got to go through the day to day in the week. But I think
Right.
it's just like kind of that lead by example. I'm very much, a servant leader. Like I'm going to help when I can. But yeah, I am going to have to make those tough decisions. And if I do have to make a tough decision, you are going to be included in that. You are going to know the why. You are going to know why we are doing what we are doing. And so, yeah, those conversations aren't fun, but it's needed because it's my job, but that comes with building that respect in those relationships to make those conversations a little bit easier.
You talk about telling the kids, don't do stupid stuff, right? don't
Yeah.
don't do stupid stuff. And
Mhm.
it's almost like the adult way you talk to the coaches is this is what I'm hearing from you is I'm your boss, but don't put me in a position where I have to be your boss, right?
Mhm. Yeah, pretty much.
If you've got something coming up, something you're worried about, something you're hearing, something I'm going to eventually hear about, be proactive. Get in here and tell me what's going on. Tell me that you need some help. Tell me
Yes.
you want to work through something, and we'll do it together, right?
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
it's really the same thing. Don't do stupid things.
Oh, completely. Oh, I could, yeah, say that about
Don't,
both groups.
don't get drunk at Applebee's on a Saturday night.
Right. Yeah.
Not expect somebody to tell me about it, or just something
Yeah.
bad to happen because you were drunk at Applebee's at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it
Oh,
is. It's funny how similar that is, and I think back to you. Coaches expect their athletes to tell them when things happen, right? So they don't hear from somebody else, and it's the same exact thing. Like, hey, coach, I better hear it from you before I hear it from anybody else. And I mean, I've had coaches that, or they'll go off or they'll do something, they'll come in and tell me, and they'll be like, I know what was wrong, and I'm gonna go fix it. And you're like, good, onward, okay. And go ahead. Yeah. So,
but
but yeah,
that's a blessing because okay, at least you're telling me, because if you're telling me you're going to go fix it and I don't not sure you know how to fix it,
yeah,
at least you told me before you tried to fix it, right?
true. That valid. Yes.
And I give you a couple of ideas before you try and go fix this,
Right. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
How
Like,
about we
let's
take a
talk about
breath
it.
and
Yeah.
calm you down first, and right?
Yes. No,
I
they're
love that.
great though. But I do. I'm very very fortunate and blessed to have some great coaches right now. I truly am, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's been fun.
Katelyn, why Division II? For that family that doesn't get Division II, doesn't understand the division levels, what makes Division II so great? What makes it such an attractive fit for the right kid?
hmm I think right now Division II is the most what feels like the most sane division. We still have that student athlete mentality, and I think we will continue to hang on to that. Division II, in my opinion, is so special because one, it's still competitive. You can still earn and get some scholarship money, right? Like you have that opportunity to get some money and then do the sport that you love at a very high level. I think about Division II and where we're at. I've said it a couple times. We have a really tight knit community here, right? We're very rural, and so something that I can think about and see is we've watched other gyms. We've seen some D1s, and they're maybe some mid majors or smaller Division 1s, and they've got no one in the stands, right? And we're over here. We've got a small gym. It's tight. I mean, it's pretty tight, but we pack that thing, and it is loud and it is fun.
That's
And I
so
think
much better, isn't it?
see, and that's what I think all the time is like, I just feel like I'd rather have that experience. I'd
You
rather be
do.
here, be able to play, be surrounded by people who actually care about me and who actually know my name. I think that's something, I mean, I love that. I love getting to know the student athletes. I mean, it's awesome. And it's just being able to see them and do what they love is the reason that we do what we do. And I just think that sometimes at some bigger schools, it can feel very disconnected, or you don't maybe know all the different people in the department. I mean, like I said, we are all in one building. We are way too close for you to not know who we are.
That's right.
And it also like shouldn't be a scary thing. If the AD walks into practice, it shouldn't be like, oh no, it should just be like normal, right? And I think that's
That's right.
something that we try to really instill is that we're all going to be around, we're all available, and is that people will know your name here, and they're going to really appreciate you and appreciate you for being a human, for being a student, for being who you are outside of your sport, because it's
Right.
not just all about you as a basketball player or you as a baseball player. There's so much more to you than that.
Totally agree. Talk a little bit to the family out there that's in Colorado, surrounding states, that doesn't know much about Adams State. Why is it a great place to come visit and give it a look?
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's so unique, and I will say, Adams State is in Alamosa, Colorado. Like I said before, it's very rural. I came from a kind of a city in Washington, and I drove in here. And I'm not gonna lie, I drove in and I started crying because I could not believe what I had gotten myself into. And
Now
so,
look at you.
yeah, I was like, and here we are, 11 years later or whatever it is. But I really truly think that Adams State is a place that you have to make the most of, because you can easily come here and be like, oh, it's small, there's nothing to do. Well, no, you're just not looking. And so we really try to sell that there's things to do. It may not be the big city, but there's so many other options. I mean, going downtown, going outdoorsy things, going hiking. It's a way for students to experience things that they never would. Being able to take, working with some other different groups across campus and taking these kids out to these small communities, and they're seeing things that they never would have seen before. Even like carrot. We have a lot of farming here, right? So potato farms, carrot farms, a lot of all the ag stuff we have. Getting them to experience that, I think, is something that's so cool. And then kind of back to it, it's a community where people will know who you are. They'll see you downtown, they'll see you out at one of the coffee shops or out at, one of the restaurants, and be like, oh, great game last night, or how's everything going? And it's really a unique and special place in that kind of way. And I think that's something that it's kind of crazy, because every time we're with candidates and they ask us, well, why Adams State for you, right? I feel like this is a question we get a lot. And over and over, I feel like we say it's the people here. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, it really is the people. I mean, it's like that you're in that community where people wave, when they're on their bike or walking, like everybody waves. Like I was in Washington, D.C. for the NCAA convention. And I remember I was kind of walking around seeing some of the sites, and I'm so used to just waving at people. I look like a freaking crazy person because I'm like, just waving and, oh, you don't do this here. So it's like it almost feels cliche, but it's like real. And I think that's something that I think one of my favorite things too is when we have athletes that come in and then they get kind of engulf themselves in the community, and then they end up staying because they love it here. Like that is one of the coolest things for me.
It's such a good point, because I always recruited out of state. I was a big believer 60% of my roster was going to be out of state, because I wanted kids to stay. I wanted them to freaking learn how to do their laundry on their own. I wanted them to learn how to deal with a roommate that maybe they didn't relate to very well, and they had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And when that happens, now all of a sudden they're not going anywhere. They love it. They're not looking to transfer. They're not looking at the other side of the fence. And I think that's what's really great about Adams State is, okay, maybe there's not a rock concert 5 minutes away. Okay, maybe there's not a professional baseball game 5 minutes away. But the fact that you get to play Division II high-level sport, get a great education, you're going to build this family, this sisterhood and brotherhood, and get to know all these people. Man, there's nothing better. You can move to Seattle and Denver and Chicago when you're 22. You can go get a job if you want a big city, but go somewhere where you can learn how to be an adult and learn how to get to know people. And I grew up in a town of 2,000 people, so I'm always waving back to you, Katelyn. I promise.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, someone hopefully will. Yeah,
that's right. Coach, this is awesome. I want to talk some recruiting with you. We'll do that in part 2, but I want to do a little rapid fire with you. Just whatever comes to your head, some fun stuff so people get to know you a little bit. What's your favorite part? 11 years, big city girl, small town. What's your favorite part of living in Alamosa?
Oh, it's the mountains. It's being surrounded by mountains, being able to drive not that far and go hiking. Yeah. I love the outdoors now.
We moved to Colorado 11, 12 years ago, and I wish we would have moved here 10 years before that. Yeah. I'm same way. Cross country meet or basketball game? I know you're highly involved in both.
I know that's such a tough one. Like my heart is like basketball, but I will say there is nothing like being at a cross country meet. It is so fun. It's crazy. It's loud. People running everywhere. It's awesome. So that's a tough one.
You never want to go to a cross country meet at 6:30 when you're in your warm bed in October. But once you get there, you're like, I'm so glad I came.
Oh, it's awesome. The start is my favorite part, where there's just like this whole mob of people just taking off. Yeah,
I agree. Early morning workout or late evening walk?
Honestly, both. I'm an early morning person, but I like my later or evening walks with the dogs.
Yeah. It's when you got a beautiful view like you guys have in Alamosa. It's the best time of the day and at dusk. Is there a book, a leadership book that you think everybody should read, or at least coaches should read? Is there?
Yeah, and actually, I'll say the one that we're kind of working on as an executive team on our campus too. But it's called Do Hard Things, and I think it just like speaks to a lot of these jobs aren't easy. Otherwise, I think everybody would do it. And like things are going to be hard. And I think just remembering it's a privilege to do what we do. And the hard things make it good in a crazy way.
A lot of coaches have been bringing that book up. I love it. Most underrated Division II experience. Is there something that really makes Division II unique?
I would say because of where we're at, in some ways it is the game day environment. I think really people don't think it's a lot and they're just coming into a gym playing and leaving. No, it's we're able to surround it with different sponsorships and things going in the crowd. Like, I think that's something that we've seen at a lot of schools even. That game day experience, it can be just as fun and exhilarating as some of that higher level.
What's your best stress reliever at the end of a long day?
Probably trying to get out, go for a walk, get outside. Sometimes I do wish I was better at it, but I have found that when it's not windy, I will say the wind here can get a little rough sometimes. When it's not windy, getting
Yeah.
outside is
Well,
something that
you're a dog mom. You don't have much choice with that, right?
I do. I kind of have to. It's like my duty. Yeah. Yeah.
If you weren't in athletics, what career would you be in?
Oh gosh. That's a hard one. Because it's weird. I can't see myself in anything but athletics. Oh gosh. I feel like if anything, it would just be something where I could travel a lot because I love to travel. So
Yeah.
anything that would be around that or helping people travel because I like organizing trips.
If I were to interview the 22-year-old version of yourself, could you imagine yourself as an AD?
Oh, absolutely not. No way. Never.
I don't know anybody that dreams about that, do they? Especially once you get the job and you realize what it is.
Like what? Yeah. Well, who would want to do this? Yeah.
Um, Favorite thing about working with student athletes?
Oh my gosh, they're so funny. And they keep you kind of young too.
Yeah.
And I think I like the student athletes, especially at the college level, because you can be so real with them and like just kind of tell them how it is. And they look at you like, how dare you say that? I'm like, well, yeah, figure it out. And so I just love that you can be that honest, like kind of give them crap sometimes. It's the best.
There's so much I don't miss about working at the college level, but those working with an athletic staff every day and having the kids every day, just that they just keep it so fresh. And
Oh,
there's never the next day is never like the day before, right?
oh no. Yeah, and they keep you so young. Like I like to think that I'm not, I'm kind of young still, but then they say things and you're like, what? So yeah, really they keep me up to date with everything
That's
also.
right. Oh gosh, yes. I'll send my 60-year-old daughter to you for a weekend.
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah.
That'll be perfect for you. Let's finish on this one. What's one leadership trait you're still working on?
I think a big one is and I've gone better at, but that kind of like that delegation piece. I know I kind of talked about it earlier, but I think it's really that going from a manager to a leader and truly feeling like, okay, I am leading, we've got everything in place, doing all the doing everything. So just getting better at like something comes my way, it's okay to kind of give it to somebody else or say, hey, this is for so and so instead of me. But definitely that's a big one, and really shifting those gears and shifting that mindset.
Katelyn, I'm really picky who I invite on this podcast because it's usually selfish. It's people that I'm like, I've read enough about you. I'm like, I want to get to know you. You've blown me away. You're awesome. I'm so thankful you're in our state, here in Colorado. I'm so thankful that you're representing a great school in Adams State, and I'm so appreciative of your honesty and your authenticity and the love that you have for your people that you represent. So thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. You've been great as well, so I really appreciate it.
And anybody that's listening, come back on Monday. I've taken a lot of her time. I'm hoping she's going to give me about 10, 15 more minutes. We're going to dive into recruiting and really talk about Division II recruiting and the portal and NIL and all those crazy things that you have to deal with every day. So I'll see you all in a couple of days.